In this tutorial, I'll show you how you can develop an Eiffel project for the visitor and composite pattern. So first of all, let's go to your, let's say, desktop to create a directory for this project here. Let's have a new folder here. Let's just call that expression. Okay. So this will be the small application we want to use to illustrate the two patterns. And then under expression, we're going to create this Eiffel project. Okay, now let's go back to Eiffel Studio and then launch Eiffel Studio and then choose basic application under create projects. Okay, say create, and now let's browse to where we created the expression directory. Go to desktop and then choose expression and say okay. And now for root class, let's just leave the same name, and then we can change that if we want to later. And then say okay. Okay, so now let's go back to our file system over here. Under expression, you can see we only got the application class and ifgens for all the generated C code and also the configuration file for the Eiffel projects. Let's create several subdirectories to actually keep our files more organized. So the standard is we got the folder called root, and for every directory we create, we're going to link them as a cluster in the Eiffel Studio in just a moment. Root. And also we got all the test cases, and in this case we're going to have all the classes related to the composite pattern for the expression structure. So let's call it structure. And let me just spell that correctly. And also we have also the visit pattern, which will represent all the operations on the language. So let's call it operations. Okay, so these are the four directories we have. But now we have to link them as clusters in the Eiffel Studio. Okay. Now, I want you to pay attention to one thing, which we'll fix in a bit. So you can see that application now is not in one of the four directories that we have created. You will see that after we have linked these four directories as clusters, and then you will see that application belongs to none of them. So this will actually cause some configuration error or compilation error in Eiffel Studio, simply because every class in Eiffel Studio should belong to at least one clusters. Okay, if it does not belong to any cluster, it's considered as unknown, and it's easy to fix. We just have to drag and drop application to one of the directories. Okay, so that it belongs to one of the clusters. Okay, well, I'll illustrate this in just a moment. Okay, so now let's go to projects, project settings, and then under groups, first of all, the default cluster over here is called just projects, which is not very useful. It simply refers to the location as the current directory, and the current directory simply refers to this expression directory over here, just the entire thing. But as we said, we want to create subdirectories and subclusters to organize the classes better. Okay, so now let's just remove this. And then let's add new clusters. So right click, add cluster, and then first of all, let's say root, and then the path should be relative to the current project directory, which is expression, dot, and then root. And then add a new cluster here, tests, and then location dot tests. Okay, another cluster over here will be the composite pattern related classes, which will be structure. And then dot structure. Then say OK. And then one more, which is the visitor pattern related classes, which will be operations. Dot operations. Okay, and then say OK. Okay, so we got all these four clusters. But now if we try to compile, we will get exactly the error I just mentioned. You can see that somehow the class name application is not known. As you can see, the application class is outside any of the clusters we just linked: operations, root, structure, and tests. It simply does not belong to any one of them. So a very easy way to fix this is to make sure application resides in one of them. In this case, I want to put application under the root, so which means application will be the main entry point of execution, like the main class or main method in your Java or C code. Okay, let's now recompile again. So now everything compiles. Okay, now let's also import our eSpec testing library, okay, and set things up, and then we will be done for this current video. And now let's go to projects and then project settings, okay. Now library over here, right click and say add library. Filter here, let's say eSpec and enter, okay. You will see we got eSpec Eiffel specification library. Include and then say okay. Okay, now let's just compile to make sure. Okay, now I want to just rename this application here. Basically, this is how it goes. So in the main class over here, we want to add two categories of tests. One will be the test for the composite pattern. The other one will be the test for the visitor pattern. Each one of them should go inside the tests cluster over here. Okay, so now let's just add them one by one. Let's first of all click on the tests cluster over here and add a new class. Okay, let's call that test structure. Okay, and then creates. Okay, in this case we can say inherits es test. So that's a unit test for the structure related or composite related classes. Okay, and then over here we can say, okay, let's just put make sure it's well formatted. Okay, and then we can say creates make feature and then add tests, and then we can say make over here and then do an end. We haven't got anything yet, but that's okay. But let's just put a feature clause over here just to indicate where we should extend later. Okay, tests over here. Okay, and now let's compile. Okay, everything compiled because we imported the eSpec library. Let's do the same thing. Also test operations. So that'll be testing the visitor pattern later. Okay, so test operations. Okay, also we're gonna say inherits es test. Okay, that's also unit test, but for classes that are related to the visitor pattern, the operations. Creates, make, and feature over here, a section here, add tests, some comment here, and then make, do an end. We'll add more tests a little bit later. And then this will be a section to add either test commands or test queries. Okay, let's leave that empty here, and then we expand it later. Okay, now finally, let's go back to our application class over here. So over here, we want to collect all the tests, all the unit test classes. Okay, so now rather than inherit from the arguments, which refer to the command line argument, that's not what we want to do for this project. Let's say es suite. A suite simply means a collection of test classes. Okay, and then let's compile. Okay, it compiles, and then over here we can just make it, and now we can say add unit test classes. Okay, now let's add the two that we have. You can say add test, and now what we need to pass will be some es test objects. We can create anonymous objects. So we can say create test structure make. Okay, that's one way. You can just copy this line over here. We can do the same thing for also the test structure over here, test operations here. Okay, I'm just gonna change that to operations. Okay, after this, we can now do show browser and then run eSpec. Okay, just get things ready for the future developments. Okay, compile over here. We can just try to run. If you say run workbench system, I don't think anything will come up because we haven't got any test cases yet. Okay, but if you just compile and just make sure everything is okay without any errors. Okay, so now in the next videos, we'll show you how you can gradually develop the classes under the structure and also under the operations clusters. And then we'll see how everything works together in the debugger. Okay, stay watching.